There is a quiet power in the ability to ignore, not the cold, dismissive ignoring of bitterness, but the kind that comes from a deeper clarity, the knowing that not every voice deserves your attention and not every battle is yours to fight. And yet, here is the paradox. We live in a culture that glorifies reaction. Every glance, comment, or provocation is meant to pull you in, to make you defend yourself, to prove your worth. If you ignore someone, you are accused of arrogance. If you respond, you often waste your peace on people who were never seeking understanding in the first place. The tension is real. How do you protect your energy without becoming cold? How do you remain open to life while refusing to be entangled in unnecessary conflict? This question is not just modern, it has been wrestled with for centuries. The Stoics, like Epictetus, taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Buddha taught that detachment was not about indifference, but about seeing things clearly without being enslaved by them. In the 20th century, Harvard psychologist Dr. David McClelland added a scientific dimension to this wisdom. He identified what he called the need theory, that human beings are primarily driven by three needs: achievement, affiliation, and power. Understanding these needs not only helps us navigate our own behavior, it reveals why others seek our attention in the first place. Some approach us out of genuine connection, others because they need to assert control, and some because they need a reaction to validate their own existence. In this video, we will explore 6 core insights drawn from philosophy, psychology, and lived experience that will help you master the art of ignoring, not from arrogance, but from wisdom. By the end, you will not only know how to ignore people in a way that protects your mind and heart, you will understand why this is one of the rarest and most necessary skills in the modern world. It begins with something small: a passing comment, a sarcastic remark, a subtle jab that's just sharp enough to make your mind stop and your chest tighten. You know the moment. Someone at work questions your competence in front of others. A friend slips in a backhanded compliment at dinner. A stranger on social media fires off a sentence meant to ignite you. And here is the trap: the human mind is wired to defend itself. The moment we feel attacked, or primitive fight or flight circuitry wakes up, urging us to prove them wrong, to restore our honor, to reclaim the narrative. But the Stoics, ancient masters of emotional sovereignty, saw this for what it truly is: a baited hook. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You always have the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can set control." This is the Stoic filter, the disciplined pause between stimulus and response. It asks you one simple question: is this an invitation worth accepting? Imagine every provocation as a physical envelope handed to you. Inside, there may be a genuine opportunity for dialogue or a poison letter designed only to pull you into someone else's emotional theater. The tragedy is that most people open every envelope they're given. The wisdom is in learning that you can simply, Epictetus was blunt about it. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, you can't stop people from offering you their drama, but you can stop yourself from RSVPing. Practically, this means slowing down. The moment you feel provoked, ask, does this serve my values? Is this my fight or someone else's projection? Will engaging bring me closer to the person I want to be or pull me further away? If the answer is no, decline the invitation, politely, firmly, silently. It doesn't matter how. The point is that you've protected the one thing you truly control, your mind. Because the truth is, not every comment deserves a counter comment. Not every attack deserves a counter attack. And sometimes the greatest show of strength is walking away before the curtain even rises. There's special moment in every difficult interaction when you realize this isn't set actually about me. It might come when a colleague criticizes your work, but you notice their voice is trembling, not with anger, but with insecurity. Or when a family member tries to guilt you, but their eyes betray a quiet desperation for connection. Or when a stranger online lashes out, but their words feel like recycled pain from somewhere deep inside them. Dr. David McClelland, a Harvard psychologist, spent decades studying the hidden forces that drive human behavior. What he discovered was deceptively simple beneath the complexity of our personalities. Three primary needs tend to shape what we do and how we treat others. One, the need for achievement. Some people seek you out because they want to measure themselves against you. They test, challenge, or compete, not to hurt you, but to prove something to themselves. Two, the need for affiliation. Others approach you out of a hunger for connection, approval, or belonging. Their need is for closeness, though it can sometimes spill over into clinginess, guilt tripping, or people pleasing. 3. The need for power. And then there are those who seek influence, control, or dominance. They may provoke, manipulate, or undermine, not because they dislike you personally, but because their self worth is tied to being above others. Once you understand this framework, a shift happens. You stop taking every word, every slight, every demand so personally. You begin to see the hidden script behind their actions. The next time someone tries to draw you into their drama, pause and ask, which of McClelland Test's needs is driving this? If it's a healthy pursuit, achievement in the spirit of growth, or affiliation in the spirit of kindness, maybe it's worth engaging. But if it's pure power play, thinly disguised as concern or challenge, that is your cue to step back. Ignoring in this context isn't set cruel. It's simply refusing to be an extra in someone else's script. You choose your role, and more importantly, the play you even show up for. There's thus a strange discomfort in silence. We are conditioned to believe that if we don't speak, we lose, that if we don't defend ourselves, we have surrendered. But this belief is often a trap because silence can be one of the most powerful responses you have. Nietzsche once observed, sometimes one remains silent to keep from being a fool. He wasn't set talking about cowardice. He was talking about choosing dignity over the fleeting satisfaction of having the last word. Imagine an argument unfolding. Someone accuses you unjustly. Your mind floods with the perfect rebuttal, sharp, flawless, undeniable. But then you see the truth. The person before you is not interested in understanding, only in winning. At that moment, engaging would not be communication, it would be theater. Here is where silence becomes strategy. It denies the other person the fuel they were seeking. It halts the escalation before it spirals. It preserves your energy for the battles that actually matter. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called ma, the space between sounds, the pause that gives meaning to what is said. Your silence can create that same space in conflict. It says, without words, I will not step into this arena. My peace is worth more than this performance. Of course, silence is not always easy. It can feel like weakness, especially when provoked in public. But here's the paradox: the stronger your self respect, the less you feel the need to prove it out loud. Silence becomes a mirror in which the other person is forced to face their own behavior without your interference to distract them. Practically, this means resisting the reflex to fill the air. It means letting a provocation hang there, unanswered until it fades into irrelevance. It means remembering that you are never obligated to react simply because someone demands it. Because in the end, silence is not the absence of a response. It is a response, one that says, I am not yours to control. In the ancient world, wealth was measured in gold, land, or livestock. Today, the most valuable resource you possess isn't money, it's attention. Every ad you see, every notification you receive, every piece of outrage in your news feed is fighting for a slice of your mental focus. It's not just that your attention is valuable, it's the currency upon which the modern world runs. The more you give it away without thought, the poorer you become in peace, clarity, and self direction. The philosopher Simone Weil wrote, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. When you give someone your attention, you are giving them something you will never get back, a piece of your life. And yet, we hand it out to strangers online, to trivial arguments, to people who have no intention of adding anything good to our lives. This is where ignoring becomes an act of self respect. Every moment you choose not to engage with unnecessary drama, you reclaim a fragment of your mind's economy. Think of your attention like a daily budget. If you spend most of it on irritation, gossip, and reaction, you will have nothing left for creation, love, or the pursuit of what truly matters. But if you spend it wisely, investing in conversations, projects, and relationships that align with your values, you will see a return that compounds over time. Psychology supports this. What you focus on grows in your mental field. Engage with negativity, and it multiplies. Feed your attention into meaningful work, and it expands. Protecting your attention isn't about living in isolation, it's about becoming a deliberate investor in your own mind. This means setting boundaries with people who consume without contributing. It means resisting the urge to check in on drama just to see what's happening. It means remembering that attention, like money, can be squandered, or it can build a fortune of peace. Because in the end, when you learn to control where your attention goes, you no longer just ignore people. You rise above them, not in arrogance, but in the quiet wealth of a mind that belongs entirely to itself. There is a misconception about detachment. Many imagine it as a cold withdrawal from life, an emotional shutting of doors. The true detachment, as taught in Buddhist philosophy, is not a rejection of people. It is a release of the need to control them. The Buddha spoke of upekkha, equanimity, the ability to remain steady in the face of both praise and blame, success and failure. It is the skill of seeing clearly without clinging to what pleases you or pushing away what disturbs you. This is what makes ignoring in its purest form an act of compassion. You're not ignoring someone because you've stopped caring about them as a human being. You're ignoring the pull of their unhealthy behavior so you can respond to life from a place of balance. Imagine someone standing in a river, trying to push back the water with their hands. The current is relentless, and they exhaust themselves fighting it. Detachment is stepping to the bank, allowing the river to flow as it will, and choosing where and when to step in. In relationships, this means you can love someone without agreeing with them. You can wish them well without joining in their drama. You can listen without being pulled into their emotional storm. Bitterness, on the other hand, is a form of attachment. It means you are still holding on to the wound, to the offense, to the need to be right. Buddhism warns that this attachment keeps the cycle of suffering alive. So the middle path offers a different way. Stay open enough to feel compassion, but grounded enough to let go when engagement would harm your peace. It sets a balance, warm in heart, steady in mind. When you practice detachment without bitterness, ignoring no longer feels like a wall. It feels like a gentle redirect, a way of saying, I honor your humanity, but I must also honor my own. And when both of those truths are held together, you are free. There sits a quiet truth about life that few people ever fully accept. You will never have time for everything. Every yes you give is also a silent no to something else, often to something more meaningful. This is why the final stage of learning to ignore people is not about them at all. It's steps about you. It's about deciding with radical clarity what kind of life you want to build and then aligning your responses to that vision. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. Every time you engage in meaningless conflict, every time you react to a distraction, you step away from your truest self. And the tragedy is that most people live their entire lives reacting instead of creating, spending their days answering every demand instead of shaping a life anchored in their own values. Here is the shift. When you know your core values, the principles you are willing to live and die by, ignoring others becomes effortless. If something doesn't serve those values, it simply doesn't make it onto your radar. Think of your values as a compass. If your direction is growth, you will not waste time in conversations designed only to keep you small. If your direction is integrity, you will not invest in relationships that require you to betray yourself. If your direction is peace, you will not be drawn into battles you didn't choose. This is not coldness, it is devotion, devotion to the life you are consciously building. McClelland's work shows that people approach you driven by their own needs. Your work is to filter those interactions through the question, does this align with my chosen path? If not, you let it pass. Not in anger, not in judgment, but in quiet certainty that your time is finite and you will spend it on what matters most. In the end, ignoring is instead just a defensive move. It's a declaration, I choose the life I respond to. And by doing so, you stop living as a reaction to others and start living as an expression of yourself. We began with a paradox that ignoring people, something often mistaken for arrogance or coldness, can in fact be an act of wisdom, compassion, and deep self respect. Along the way, we explored 6 insights that transform ignoring from a knee jerk reaction into a conscious choice. Not every invitation is worth accepting. The Stoic filter taught us that not every provocation deserves our presence, and that walking away can be the highest form of strength. People seek you for their needs, not yours. McClelland's need theory revealed that most interactions are driven by needs for achievement, affiliation, or power, and seeing this clearly frees us from taking things personally. Silence is a response. We learned that withholding words can protect dignity, prevent escalation, and turn conflict into a mirror for the other person. Your attention is your currency. We discovered that attention is life's most precious resource, and that spending it on the wrong things bankrupts our peace. Detachment without bitterness. The Buddhist middle path showed us that you can care without clinging and let go without hardening your heart, choosing the life you respond to. And finally, we saw that knowing your values makes ignoring natural because your life becomes too intentional to be pulled into every passing drama. If there is one truth that underlies all of this, it's that ignoring isn't about shutting the world out. It's about letting the right parts of the world in. You are not here to answer every provocation. You are not here to be accessible to every demand. You are not here to live as a reaction to other people's needs. You are here to live a life that only you can live. So here is my challenge to you. For the next 7 days, pay attention to the invitations you receive, the glances, the words, the digital messages, the subtle hooks into arguments or gossip. And before you respond, pause. Ask, does this serve the person I am becoming? If it does, engage fully, generously, wholeheartedly. If it doesn't, let it pass without bitterness, without drama, without apology, because the rarest kind of freedom in this noisy world is not the freedom to speak, but the freedom to remain unmoved. If this conversation resonated with you, consider subscribing. Every week we explore questions like this, not to escape the world, but to move through it with more clarity, courage, and meaning. And if you have your own reflections or stories about learning to ignore wisely, share them in the comments. This is a journey we are taking together. In the end, ignoring is not absence, it is presence, presence with what truly matters.